The atmospheric processor's warning beacon pulsed dimly in the amber gloom, a flickering red eye against Solana's thick, smoky air. Joran wiped the sweat from his brow as he adjusted the straps of his equipment pack. 3 months stationed on this planet and he still wasn't used to the heat, a heavy, pressing presence that radiated from the very soil and hung in the air like a shroud. He'd been assigned to this backwater corner of the system for what was supposed to be a standard atmospheric recalibration. The ancient climate control systems, relics from Solana's forgotten theocratic past, had started malfunctioning again, producing unpredictable energy spikes. Routine. Dull. A tech's job through and through. But as he neared the overgrown ruins of the old temple district, his scanner beeped urgently. Joran frowned. The thermal readings were wrong. Wildly wrong. That's not right, he muttered, adjusting the settings. The screen displayed a cluster of intense heat signatures from the center of the largest temple, far more than any dormant tech could produce. He hesitated. Then the sound came. Screaming. High-pitched. Desperate. Female. He dropped his tools and ran. His boots crunched over cracked stone and brittle temple tiles as he sprinted toward the yawning mouth of the central shrine. Orange light flickered inside, casting long, broken shadows. As he stepped through the archway, the wave of heat hit him like a wall. It seared his lungs and made his eyes water. But it was what he saw that stopped him in his tracks. Flames danced around a raised platform in the center of the chamber, forming patterns that almost moved with intention. Carved stone pillars stood in a circle, framing the inferno. And at the heart of it all, chained to an altar, was a woman. She was Silvani. Her skin shimmered faintly with that luminous quality his scans had logged on the locals. Her hair was a brilliant silver white, matted and plastered to her forehead with sweat. Her ceremonial robes, delicate and ornate, were already singed. Her eyes locked with his the moment he entered. "Help me," she cried out in heavily accented universal, her voice nearly lost in the roar of fire. Joran didn't think. He moved. He grabbed a slab of fallen masonry and used it as a makeshift shield, holding it in front of him as he charged into the flames. The heat was unbearable. He coughed, blinking away tears. His suit's outer layer began to smoke. At the altar, he dropped the stone shield and pulled out his plasma cutter. The chains were ancient but thick. His hands shook as he pressed the cutter's beam to the metal, sparks flying. "Hold still," he shouted. The metal hissed, then gave way. First one wrist. Then the other. Then her ankles. The moment she was free, he lifted her into his arms and turned. Behind them, the pillars groaned. The ceiling cracked. They made it to the doorway just as the entire structure collapsed with a roar, flames and debris chasing their heels. Joran stumbled away from the ruins before setting her down in the sparse grass. She was gasping, skin streaked with soot, but alive. Her robes were singed, but intact. She looked at him, wide-eyed. "Are you hurt?" he asked, scanning her quickly. She shook her head, then leaned forward and pressed her palm against his cheek. Her skin was hot, trembling. "You are not Silvani," she whispered. "Name's Joran," he said. "I'm with the maintenance team." "What the hell was that?" "Vesa," she replied, ignoring the question. Then she murmured something in Silvani that sounded like a prayer. She met his eyes again. "By the old laws of the flame bond, you have saved me. I belong to you now." He blinked. "Wait. What?" "You pulled me from the sacred fire. In doing so, you have claimed me as mate." "Whoa, whoa. No, I was just helping." She leaned in and kissed him. It was a brief kiss, soft, dry lips against his. But it sent a jolt through him, as if her very touch carried some dormant energy. She pulled back, storm-gray eyes locked on his. "We are bound," she said simply. "I will not leave your side." Joran stared at her, unsure if the rush of heat in his chest was from the kiss or the adrenaline still pounding through him. The temple ruins smoldered in the distance, casting a flickering glow across her face as she sat beside him in the twilight. Her words echoed in his mind, "I belong to you now." "I don't understand," he said slowly. "What do you mean, you belong to me?" "I didn't claim anything. I just saved you." "Anyone would have." Vesa blinked, as if he'd spoken in a language she didn't recognize. "Not just anyone would enter the sacred fire. Not just anyone would survive it." "The fire almost killed us both," Joran replied. "And what even was that ritual? Why were you chained up?" She looked down at her hands, her voice quiet. "It was the choosing." "Choosing? Choosing what?" "A mate," she said. "A bride. A sacrifice. All three." Joran rubbed his face. "I need context, Vesa. Not poetry." She sighed, then stood, brushing ash from her robes. "Among my people, the sacred fire is the test. The chosen woman is bound to the altar, and the fire is lit. If she survives until the flames die down on their own, she is judged worthy of joining with the Flame Lord, usually a powerful suitor." Joran frowned. "And if she doesn't survive? Then she was not worthy." Vesa met his gaze. "But if someone interferes, someone who is not the Flame Lord, and pulls her from the fire, then the laws say she is bonded to her rescuer. Forever." "So, you're saying there's no take-backsies in your culture?" "I just permanently married you by accident." She didn't smile. "You saved my life. You accepted the fire's challenge. Our bond is sealed." Joran sat back, exhaling slowly. "I didn't agree to this. Your actions spoke for you." He looked at her again. Really looked. She was beautiful, yes, but also strange and unfamiliar. Silver-white hair, luminous skin, and eyes that seemed older than her years. She looked like something out of a dream, or a nightmare. "You need to come with me," he said finally. "My team can help. Maybe there's a way to reverse this." "There is no reversal. Only death or union." Joran groaned. "Of course." The maintenance outpost was small, a prefab habitat pod perched near the edge of a cooling plateau. Joran helped Vesa up the sloped path, ignoring the strange looks from the other technicians. "What's she wearing?" one whispered. "Was she in that temple? Is she one of the natives?" Joran ignored them. He guided her into his quarters, the automatic door sliding shut behind them. "Sit," he said, pulling out a canister of water and handing it to her. Vesa obeyed, cradling the container like it was sacred. She drank in small, precise sips. Joran ran his hand through his hair. "I need to contact Central Command. Maybe they know more about this flame bond ritual. Maybe it's just symbolic." "You don't feel it?" Vesa asked, setting the canister down. "Feel what?" "The pull. The warmth that isn't from fire. The way your heart beats faster when you look at me." He swallowed. "You're very attractive." "That's biology, not magic." "Magic?" She tilted her head. "No, it is deeper than that. More ancient. Our bond is not of science, but soul." Joran hesitated. His skin still felt warm where she'd kissed him. The lingering sensation on his cheek felt more than just emotional. Almost, tethered. "This isn't how things work where I'm from," he said. "We choose who we love. We take time. We build something. And yet you chose to risk your life for mine. Without knowing me. Without asking why." He had no answer. Night settled over Solana like a heavy blanket. The sky above shimmered with unfamiliar constellations, stars dancing through clouds of ash and thermal haze. Joran couldn't sleep. Vesa had curled on his bunk, wearing one of his spare shirts. It hung loose over her frame, the collar slipping down one shoulder. She looked peaceful now. Quiet. Almost fragile. He watched her breathe. What had he done? He stepped out of the pod and leaned against the railing, gazing out across the plain. The temple was gone, just a smoldering ruin now. But he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had started there hadn't ended with the fire. Behind him, the door hissed. "Can't sleep either?" he asked without turning. Vesa stepped up beside him, the warm light from the pod catching the silver strands in her hair. "The bond makes rest difficult. Until it is fully formed." Joran arched a brow. "What does that mean?" "We have touched lips. Our souls have met. But there is more. Until the union is complete, the bond tugs at both of us. Urges us together." "You're talking about sex." She smiled faintly. "You speak plainly." "Yes." He turned to face her. "Vesa, I don't even know you. I don't want to hurt you. And I'm not sure I believe in any of this." "Then let me show you." Not with words, but with presence. She reached out and took his hand. It felt like something clicked in place. A puzzle piece finding its match. Joran didn't move. "What if we just waited?" he asked. "What if we got to know each other the normal way?" "If that is your wish," she said. "I will not force you." He exhaled, tension easing slightly. "But," she added, "know that time works differently for flame-bound. Our lives are linked now. Your pain echoes in me. Your joy, too." He looked down at their hands. Hers was smaller, paler, but strong. Warm. "What if I mess everything up? Then we fix it together." He met her gaze. And for the first time since pulling her from the fire, Joran didn't feel like he was falling. He felt like maybe he was flying. The morning light on Solana was not bright but bruised, filtered through layers of dust and smoke that painted the sky in muted golds and reds. Joran stood at the edge of the habitat plateau, cradling a mug of synth coffee, watching the sunrise creep over the horizon. Behind him, the habitat door hissed open. "You didn't sleep," Vesa said softly. "Not a question. An observation." He turned, giving her a tired smile. "Neither did you." She was barefoot, wearing the same spare shirt of his, now cinched at the waist with a piece of cord she'd found in his utility box. The fabric made her look oddly delicate, though he knew what strength lay beneath her surface. "I couldn't," she admitted. "The bond dreams, they come stronger now." He motioned her closer and offered the mug. She took it, fingers brushing his, her eyes scanning his face. "Are you angry with me?" "No," he said. "Just confused. Overwhelmed. You show up, I save you from an inferno, and now my life's entangled with a culture I barely understand." Vesa nodded. "Then let me explain. Truly, this time." She sat on the floor while he perched on the edge of his bunk, listening intently as she traced circles on the smooth plasteel with her finger. "When I was a child," she began, "my father was an advisor to the High Court. He believed in the old ways, but also in change. He thought the flame bond could be reinterpreted, that love and consent should guide our traditions. He sounds like a good man. He died for those beliefs." Joran winced. "I'm sorry." Vesa offered a sad smile. "After he died, my mother disappeared into grief. My uncle took guardianship. He reverted. Made alliances. One of them was with Lord Drex." Joran frowned. "That name again. He is powerful. Controls resources, armies, trade. My marriage to him was to unify two factions of our people." Her hands tightened. "The choosing ceremony was meant to finalize that. But I never agreed to it." "So you ran?" "I stayed until the moment of fire. Then I prayed for an escape. And you came." Joran scrubbed his face. And by pulling you out, I overrode the arrangement. Not just that. You invoked the oldest law. Older than contracts, older than politics. A bond forged in fire cannot be challenged, not even by a warlord. He won't like that, Joran muttered. He'll try to undo it. Just then, Joran's communicator beeped. He glanced at the holographic display. A priority message from base operations. Incoming inspection, he read aloud. Due to unauthorized activity in the temple zone. Local enforcement expected in 12 hours. Vasa's eyes darkened. They will be looking for me. Joran sighed. Then we need to move. Now. They left just after midday, slipping past the outer gates under the cover of a supply caravan. Joran had swapped his uniform for civilian gear, and Vasa's silver hair was hidden beneath a field hood. They didn't speak much as they trekked toward the eastern ridges, but their silence was comfortable, weighted only by urgency. By nightfall, they had reached the abandoned mining network, tunnels carved into the planet decades ago and long since closed due to instability. No one patrols here, Joran said, leading her through a half-collapsed entryway. We should be safe for a while. Vasa followed him into the dark, her hand brushing against his occasionally as they walked. They set up camp inside a small chamber supported by rusted beams. The walls glittered faintly with dormant crystal veins. We'll need to stay low for a few days, Joran said, activating the low-heat field heater. Until the search cools off. Vasa nodded. Thank you, Joran. For not turning away. He smiled faintly. For what it's worth, I think the universe made a mess of us. But I'm glad you're here. She reached out, her fingers brushing his wrist. The bond didn't just choose at random. Fire only answers truth. He looked down at her hand. Then, slowly, turned it over and laced their fingers together. The next day passed quietly. They rationed supplies, took turns resting, and mapped escape routes deeper into the tunnels. Vasa found herself studying Joran in the dim light, the way he leaned over equipment, the slight crook in his nose, the crease between his brows when he focused. You are unlike any suitor I ever imagined, she said suddenly. Joran looked up, startled. That a compliment? Yes, she said, smiling. You smell like machine oil and sweat. And you curse under your breath when tech misbehaves. But you're kind. And you don't treat me like a relic. He laughed softly. Well, you keep surprising me too. Solvani princess or not, you're pretty damn good at surviving. She tilted her head. You think me royal? The way you carry yourself. Your voice. Your eyes. Yeah. You don't need a crown. She moved closer to him, kneeling beside his seat. Joran, do you still fear the bond? He hesitated. I don't know what to believe. I just know that when I'm near you, things feel sharper. Like the world makes more sense. Then let it be truth enough. She leaned forward, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that was no longer about tradition, or fire, or ancient laws. It was choice. When they parted, their foreheads rested together. Joran whispered, I'm not ready to call it fate. But I won't walk away. Not from you. Then neither will I. And for a time, the tunnels felt less like a hiding place and more like sanctuary. The tunnels beneath Solana's eastern ridge were a labyrinth of long-forgotten corridors, winding like veins through the planet's crust. Once, decades ago, they had thrummed with the vibration of mining drills and cargo haulers, lit by harsh floodlights and lined with rails. Now they were quiet, dark, abandoned to dust and memory. Joran moved carefully, his wrist beacon casting a dim circle of amber light ahead of him. Behind him, Vasa followed in silence, her footsteps light, her eyes alert. This shaft should connect with the old access tunnels, he said over his shoulder. We can use the bypass routes to reach a maintenance chamber another few clicks south. Might be safer there. You know this place well, Vesa replied. Used to be a tech posted here before they shut it down. Mapped most of it when I was bored. Boredom must make excellent cartographers. He smiled at her dry tone. You'd be surprised. They made camp in an old crew rest station tucked into the wall of a narrow tunnel junction. The room was intact enough, 2 metal bunks, a long-dead terminal, and a rusted generator. Joran managed to power the lights for a few moments, enough to secure the door and confirm the chamber was clear of critters. Vesa laid out the thermal blanket, while Joran unpacked their rations. We should stay here a couple days, he said. Drexa's search parties will be using thermal scans, but the mineral density in these walls should shield us. Vesa nodded. It feels hidden. He handed her a packet of protein gel. Not exactly a royal feast, but it'll keep us alive. She accepted it with a quiet thank you and sat cross-legged, pulling her legs under the blanket. You said earlier that your father believed in change, Joran said, sitting beside her. What did that look like? She closed her eyes briefly. He believed the Solvani had held on to rituals too long. That our devotion to the past was strangling our future. Sounds familiar, Joran murmured. Humans have a bad habit of doing the same. He wanted to rewrite the flame bond laws. Make them mutual. Voluntary. Some called him a heretic. Others said he was a dreamer. And you? She looked at him. I believed in him. Still do. Even if he failed. Joran didn't speak for a long moment. The tunnel lights flickered with residual energy. His eyes searched hers. My brother died trying to broker peace, he said. On Vaxis Prime. Shuttle crash, they said. Mechanical failure. But the diplomatic logs were wiped. Records vanished. You think it was sabotage. I know it. But no one could prove it. His mission threatened powerful deals. Economic treaties. Merging territories. It's always about control. So you came here. To escape. To hide. Fix machines instead of people. But it turns out people have a way of breaking into your life anyway. Vesa smiled faintly. I seem to have a talent for intrusion. You saved me too, you know, he said quietly. Not from fire. From silence. She reached out, her hand resting on his. Then let us be each other's escape. Days passed in a slow rhythm of whispered conversations, cautious scouting, and growing closeness. Joran built a simple alarm system at the tunnel entrance using salvaged wire and sensor scraps. Vesa explored side passages and found a collapsed observation deck overlooking an ancient lava vent. It became their spot. They spent hours there, sharing stories. Joran told her about growing up on Europa Station, about his first ship, about the dog he'd left behind with a friend planetside. Vesa spoke of Solani poems, of sacred gardens where the air shimmered with scent, of a younger brother lost to the mines. They said it was a cave-in, she said one evening, voice barely a whisper. But I think it was punishment. My father had refused to sell a claim. The mine collapsed days later. Joran squeezed her hand. I'm sorry. I have learned, she said, that power does not like being denied. Then maybe it's time someone stood up to it. On the 5th night, they sat close beneath a sheet of rusted metal roofing they'd propped over the observation deck, wrapped in a blanket. The temperature had dropped, the geothermal vents cooling as planetary tides shifted. Vesa, Joran said softly, his breath fogging, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you believe this bond, this thing between us, would have happened without the fire? If we'd met some other way? She turned toward him, silver hair catching the faint light. I believe the fire did not create it. Only revealed it. So this isn't fate. No, it is resonance. Like strings that hum in harmony when near. We chose to touch. Now the melody exists. He leaned in and kissed her again. This time it was longer. Slower. The kiss of someone who had decided. Then let the song play, he murmured. Yes, she whispered. Let it. But peace could not last. Joran was working on a tunnel map when the sensor alarm buzzed. Movement, he said, his voice sharp. Main corridor. Multiple signals. Armed. Vesa was already moving, packing their gear with quick, practiced motions. Joran shut off the lights. They slipped into the side tunnel, crouching low, following a passage that twisted down into a natural cavern lined with jagged stone. We need to reach the water shaft, Vesa whispered. There's a ladder there. Old emergency exit. Will it hold? We don't have another choice. They reached the shaft just as heavy boots thundered behind them. Go, Joran hissed, lifting her onto the rungs. Climb. She disappeared into the dark, and he followed. Halfway up, a plasma bolt scorched the wall beside his head. They're firing. Keep going. They reached the top and burst through a rusted hatch into cold night air. The surface was barren here, rocky and wind-scoured. Behind them, shouts echoed. Run, Joran said. Hand in hand, they fled into the dark. The air on the surface of Solana's eastern wilderness was razor-sharp with cold, a bite to the lungs after the humid heat of the underground. Joran and Vesa didn't stop running until the wind-scrubbed cliffs blocked all sound of pursuit, until the only thing left between them and the sky was silence. They collapsed behind a jagged outcrop of obsidian rock, panting, hearts thundering in sync. The stars above pulsed faintly through the planet's dense atmosphere, like watchful eyes. Joran checked their rear. No lights. No shouting. For now. We bought some distance, he whispered, still catching his breath. Vesa nodded, her skin pale beneath the moonlight. But not safety. He looked at her shoulder. A thin cut streaked her sleeve, probably from climbing through the broken hatch. He reached for his medkit. Let me. She flinched at first, but then let him press the sealant to the cut. The skin hissed faintly as it bonded. Thank you, she whispered. We need shelter, he said. And a plan. We can't outrun them forever. There's a ravine north of here, she said, wiping her brow. Old firewatch towers near the rim. Some were converted to hermit shrines. You sure? I read about them as a girl. Exile sanctuaries. No one would search there, not even Drex. It would be beneath his pride. Joran helped her to her feet. Then we go to the Forgotten. They reached the ravine by dawn. The journey took them through plains of brittle glassgrass that cracked underfoot, and over ridges painted with mineral-rich soil in shades of rust and cobalt. The shrine tower loomed ahead, a narrow, spindly structure of woven metal and stone, cloaked in sulfur fog. Inside, it was cramped, but intact. Cracked frescoes lined the curved walls, depicting the earliest flame rituals, women walking into fire, men waiting beyond it, the eternal spiral of union and transformation. Joran helped Vesa settle on a low slab of stone that had once been an altar. They ate in silence. Afterward, he sat beside her, not touching but near. The quiet between them held tension, not of fear, but of decisions unspoken. If they find us again, he said slowly, I don't know if we'll be able to get away. Vesa looked at him. I know. And you said, if we complete the bond, Drex loses all claim to you? Yes. Under Solvani law, the consummation of a flame bond trumps all contracts. Even his. He hesitated. That's a hell of a way to make a legal argument. She gave a small smile. Our ancestors believed the body could affirm what the voice could not. Joran looked down at his hands. I don't want you to feel cornered. I don't want this to be survival. It isn't, she said. Not for me. He looked up, met her gaze. Vesa, if we do this, I need to know it's because you want to. Not because it will protect you. She moved closer, reached for his hand. I want to. I choose this. I choose you. His breath caught. Then let it be choice. She leaned in and kissed him. The shrine was quiet save for the wind. Outside, the sulfur fog coiled along the ground like low spirits. Inside, warmth bloomed between them, slow and sacred. Their hands learned each other like scripture. It was not passion born of desperation. It was intimacy earned in silence, trust, fire, and survival. When they lay wrapped in each other afterward, Vesa rested her cheek against his chest. My people would call this the moment of melding, she murmured. When two selves become one breath. And humans, he said softly, would just call this, love. She smiled into his skin. That night, they heard no alarms. No troops. The shrine stood untouched. But peace never lasted on Solana. Just before dawn, Joran's beacon flared red. Scout drone, he muttered, shaking Vesa awake. 30 clicks south. Military signature. He found us. Or is close. We need to go. Now. They packed quickly. Before leaving, Vesa reached for a charred relic on the altar, a carved spiral of obsidian. She tucked it into her pack. Reminder of what matters, she said. They slipped into the ravine just as a distant roar echoed across the hills. A landcrawler. Heavy. Armed. Joran cursed. We're not outrunning that. Vesa turned, her eyes flashing. Then we don't run. We invoke. Invoke? A trial. Flame bond laws have one last defense, the duel. The claimed may challenge the challenger for right of bond. Joran froze. You mean fight Drex? Yes. Vesa, I'm not a soldier. You're more than that. You're the man who faced fire to save me. And now you carry my soul with yours. He swallowed. He'll kill me. Not if you fight with the truth. They turned to face the rising dust plume of Drex's landcrawler. Hand in hand. Ready. The landcrawler rolled across the cracked plains of Solana with the sound of thunder. Its hull shimmered under the morning haze, armored and wide as a siege beast, casting shadows over the red dust it scattered in its wake. Joran and Vesa stood waiting in the open, just beyond the rim of the ravine. There was no cover here, no weapons. Only resolve. As the crawler hissed to a halt, Solvani warriors in ceremonial armor emerged first, their halberd spears clicking into place. Behind them strode Lord Drex. He was taller than Joran remembered, a mountain of a man wrapped in gilded plates and fire-colored silk. His face bore the tattoos of a high house, and his eyes glinted with something between hunger and disdain. There she is, he called, voice smooth and cold. The runaway bride. Vesa stepped forward without flinching. I invoke challenge by flame. The warriors stirred. Even Drex seemed surprised. You dare. I do, she said. Under First Law, Article 11. If two claimants contend for a flame-bonded, trial by combat decides the rightful bond. Drex sneered. That law is centuries dead. But not revoked, she said. And who is your champion, he asked. Joran stepped forward. I am. Drex's laugh boomed across the plateau. This human. The one who saved me, Vesa said. The one who earned what you tried to buy. Drex considered. Then gestured. The soldiers cleared a wide circle in the dust. No weapons, he said. No armor. Fight until submission or fall. Joran pulled off his jacket, stepping into the circle with a heart pounding like a war drum. The duel began with circling. Drex moved like a predator, testing Joran's reactions. Joran stayed light on his feet, remembering training drills from years ago, defensive moves from a forgotten course on Mars base. Drex struck first, a sweeping blow that Joran barely ducked. He countered with a jab to the ribs, barely landing it before being shoved back. Vesa watched from the edge of the circle, her hands clenched in silent hope. Drex charged again. Joran rolled under the blow, swept his leg, brought the bigger man crashing down for a moment. Cheers rose from a few watching soldiers, not for Drex. The warlord stood, now furious. His next punch landed hard in Joran's side, driving air from his lungs. Pain flashed white-hot. He staggered. "Give up," Drex growled. Joran spat blood. "Not today." He remembered Vasa's words. "Fight with truth." He dodged another blow, caught Drex off balance, and tackled him. The two men rolled, fists flying, dust rising. Joran caught him in a choke hold. Drex thrashed. Then, the tap. A warrior's sign of surrender. Silence fell. The soldiers stared. Drex, breathless, shoved Joran away and stood slowly. "The human wins," he said, voice laced with venom. "The bond is yours." He looked at Vesa, eyes colder now. "Wars have been fought for less, little flame. Choose wisely." Then he turned and walked away. Joran dropped to his knees, gasping. Vesa was beside him in an instant, arms around him, tears on her cheeks. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," he said. 6 months later, under the twin suns of Solana, Vesa wore a white dress stitched by her own hand. Joran stood beside her in clean linen, holding her fingers with quiet pride. They had rejected the old rituals. Their union was not one of fire or politics, but of promise. Before a gathering of Solvani and human settlers, they exchanged vows. "No flames this time," she whispered. "Just us," he said. And in the soft winds of a new Solana, their life together began.